The game that many people have waited 10 years for is finally here. Final Fantasy Versus 13. Final Fantasy 15 has finally arrived. This game has skipped an entire console generation and has gone through multiple changes in its story and gameplay to become the game that it is today. So, is this particular entry worth the decade of waiting? Well, what we have here is a game that seems to be well worth that wait, even though there are some elements that make this game fall short of greatness. One of the selling points of Final Fantasy XV is its story. The Kingdom of Lucis is currently having some issues with the Empire of Niflheim. Prince Noctis, heir to the throne of the Kingdom of Lucis, and his three pals, Gladio, Ignis, and Prompto, set out on a journey to find Lady Lunafreya, Noctis' betrothed. The marriage is supposed to be a form of ceasefire for both Lucis and Niflheim. However, things go south as the Empire ignores the ceasefire and invades Lucis, with both Noctis' father and betrothed presumed dead. Noctis and his boy band must embark on a journey to take the kingdom back from the Empire. The story is actually pretty engaging, in some parts. There are many characters that you meet that don't get any closure or barely any screen time. For example, there really is no big payoff with the whole Noctis' quest to find Luna thing. Their romance arc is never fulfilled and seems shoehorned in at the last minute. Seriously, there is never any interaction between the two except in the form of flashbacks when they were children, which isn't enough to showcase their history with each other. Also, many characters seem to be wasted, such as King Regis, who's Noctis' father, and Ravis, Luna's brother. They appear to be such great and interesting characters, but nothing is ever utilized with them.
Tol, my son.
The best characters are easily the four friends, Noct, Gladio, Ignis, and Prompto. Each of these characters hold the story together the best they can. They act off each other extremely well and make their struggle believable. These aren't legendary heroes, they're friends, and it's that extra layer of humanity that makes almost every scene and conversation involving them a treat. Throughout the game, they will engage in small talk and banter while exploring the world and fighting enemies, making them one of the best aspects of the game.
Don't go slipping.
Man, love being in dark, cramped spaces. Really great how it just sets off my claustrophobia. No need for a reason. Let's never stop doing this.
Shut up before you fall and bite your tongue off.
Oh yeah, that'd be the icing on the cake.
In the end, this game is really all about them, and the finale really brings it home. However, even with the incredible main cast, the story seems to be dragged down with unnecessary extras and story arcs that rarely have a satisfying conclusion.
Remember, those ain't your bodyguards. They're your brothers. Trust in them, always.
The world of Final Fantasy XV is beautiful and enormous, with many sites demanding that you just stop and take in the scene. Just be prepared to walk and drive for a while to get from place to place. And also be prepared for loading. For a while. You can ride on your trusty regalia. However, the car does drive on rails and it could be difficult controlling it when you wish to manually turn. If you want to move quickly in the fields, you can run a chocobo. But not just any chocobo. A drifting chocobo!
So you think you can ride this chocobo? Got chocobos, you better put them on the chocobo. Settle up if you think you can ride in this rodeo. How are you now? I don't know till the turns control.
Throughout the world, you will find many different monsters to defeat, items to collect, and dungeons to explore. Side quests are an integral part of Final Fantasy XV's open world and are extremely useful for leveling up your party before getting back on the track of the story. The side quests and exploration were addicting enough that I was a little bit over-leveled for the last 6 chapters of the game. The story and exploration does become a bit linear throughout the final chapters of the game, but the scenarios and story elements are entertaining, except for one specific chapter that almost manages to ruin the final stretch of the game. This area of the game The evil Chapter 13 separates Noctis from the rest of the party and forces him through a seemingly endless maze of corridors and hallways without any of his weapons, except for 2 that you pick up throughout the mission. To make things worse, you are forced to move slowly throughout this section. But this chapter couldn't possibly be long, since the previous chapters have been short and sweet. Wrong! This chapter took me up 2 hours to complete, not because of the game overs, but this mission really is that long. I even tried to roll to make up for my lack of speed, so this mission was just this.
Hup! Hup!
I don't even mind that the end chapter is literally a giant plot dump. It's just a poorly executed chapter, and it broke up the fun action that 15 delivers. Oh boy. Speaking of action, Final Fantasy XV flips the original turn-based combat on its head. If you are familiar with the Kingdom Hearts series, you will notice some similarities with the combat for that and 15. However, it is not as button mashing. You do need to dodge, parry, and counter in order to survive most fights. Noctis can equip a combination of 4 weapons and spells. Magic is something that doesn't take MP to cast, but it's instead a consumable that you can craft and create many different combinations of spells, such as a fire spell that poisons enemies at the same time. Magic is an extremely powerful tool for combat, but be aware of friendly fire since destruction does not discriminate. Essentially, you can think of Final Fantasy XV's combat as a scenario where almost everything that you know about the series is cranked up to 11 and just oozes with insane moments. Instead of just seeing your character periodically whack away at an enemy, you are flipping around, calling support from your party, and unleashing incredible combination attacks, even though the camera can get a bit weird in close quarters or in areas with plenty of trees. Summons are absolutely insane and over the top. However, they can only be summoned in battle when certain requirements are met, which is a shame, but that's the price for power. Even the battle music is over the top, as it can range from an extremely fast-paced track for random encounters to epic compositions as a choir sings during a boss fight. The music is truly a highlight of this game.
Go for an ebony about now.
Save the coffee for later.
Something to look forward to.
Since this is technically a road trip, the party can occasionally camp out in the world in order to cash in their experience that they've accumulated and have the chef, Ignis, cook up a meal that can boost certain stats temporarily. I don't mind having to go to rest points to level up, mainly because I love the idea of resting up and becoming stronger the next day thanks to the stat boosting meals. Leveling up and fulfilling certain requirements give you AP, which can be spent on stat boosts, abilities, and techniques for the party. The amount of progression and customization throughout the game is great, and gives you more reason to work on side quests. Final Fantasy XV is a game that has been in development hell for 10 years, with multiple sacrifices it had to make along the way. The game does have some noticeable bugs, something that is common for open world games, but none of them seem to be game breaking. In reality, most of them are pretty funny. Visual sacrifices seem to be in the form of less detailed textures in the distance and an obvious draw distance for foliage and shadows when you're running through the open world. However, Final Fantasy XV made these sacrifices to make the game run smoothly, even on a base PlayStation 4. If we stuck with the original plan of Versus 13, we would probably receive a game that was too good to be ran. Combat would feel sluggish because of the possibility of a low frame rate. This game is an example of taking time to deliver a product that is functional, and the dev team should be commended for listening to player feedback during the demos and adjusting accordingly. Final Fantasy XV is a game that not only works, but is extremely fun to play as well. Although the multiple plot lines and side characters have no clear motivation or proper resolution, the simple journey of Noct and his friends trying to get back the crown plays off extremely well and has a wonderful finale. These characters make this road trip into a grand adventure worth taking.
Woo!
Whoa! This is awesome. Taking the high road.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.